And, obviously we're not in the same room right now, but I feel like smoke emanating from my screen because you were on fire, my man. You were killing it in the bubble and the shortened season and all that. I know it didn't end the way you guys wanted to, and we'll get to the fighting in a second, but I just have to ask, overall, are you happy with this season? Like, do you feel like you guys did and maybe a little bit in terms of shutting a lot of the doubters up?
Oh, absolutely. I'm proud of the team and what we accomplished. When we show up to the summer camp, we had Justin Verlander going down. We had our closer Osuna going down. Alvarez, our DH and Rookie of the Year, going down. A lot of players that we needed throughout the regular season were down, and we're able to be one hit away from getting to a World Series again. So, yeah, I mean, we faced a great team in Tampa in the ALCS, and we were down 3 games. And we had a meeting in the clubhouse. We said, hey, we're not ready to go home yet. We got to do something about it. They got a great team. They're playing great baseball. But, we can come back. If there's one team that can come back, it's us. And we're able to come back, tie the series. Unfortunately, we lost Game 7. Like you said, we wanted to win the World Series, but now I get to watch UFC 254, baby. Let's go.
That's right. All right. So you're not in the – could I just get you want the Rays to win because they beat you? Is that how it works? Like, would you rather them win?
Honestly, I don't care who wins. I'm not even watching the games.
I'm not
even watching the games. Oh, no.
You're out.
No.
You're done.
I'm watching MMA now. I'm back. I'm transitioning to MMA now in the off season. No
All
baseball.
Right. So let's talk a little MMA because the last time we had you on this program, you called it. You said Justin Gaethje was going to be Tony Ferguson. Then you went on your social media and you rubbed it in all our faces and whatnot. And so now this is the fight that came as a result of that performance. It's Gaethje versus Khabib, undisputed title fight. You were very high on him. So I want the Carlos Correa breakdown. I know you are a student of the game. You like the analysis. Give me the breakdown of this fight as you see it.
Well, I got to say, I love both of them. I love Khabib. I love Gaethje. I picked Gaethje against Ferguson on that fight, and I thought he was going to win easy, and he did. And I got the same feeling for this fight, man. I think Khabib is going to make it look super easy. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, this is Khabib tough.
Want the Rays to win because they beat you? Is that how it works? Like, would you rather them win?
I think I don't care who wins. I'm not even watching the games. I'm not even watching. Gaethje has never seen that level of grappling inside the octagon. It's all been standing and it's all been strikers. I've heard Gaethje saying, and it's quoted saying that he doesn't wrestle because he gets tired. I was watching the Embedded episode 4 yesterday, and he said that he's not good from the bottom, but he's good getting out of the bottom. And, in freestyle wrestling, you can lock your hands to secure your opponent down, to pin him down. And in MMA, you can do that. And that's what Khabib's going to do all day. Everybody knows their plan. Everybody knows Khabib's going to take you down and maul you. Nobody has been able to stop it. And if you got a guy saying that he gets tired of wrestling and he's not good from the bottom, I think he's in for a long, long night if Khabib's going to go out there for 25 minutes and do his thing, man. And I think it's going to be an easy fight for Khabib.
Wow, easy fight. You're the first person that
as much as I love Gaethje.
Wow, easy fight. Now, do you think he stops Justin Gaethje?
Yeah, absolutely. He's gonna submit him in the 3rd or 4th round. I think that if Khabib does what he did against Barboza, which was set the pace, make Justin Gaethje fight at the pace that he wants him to fight. If you saw the Barboza fight, Khabib was completely sprinting towards him. Barboza had no space. Khabib was all over him, taking him down, mauling him. If Khabib can dictate the pace, I think Gaethje is going to have a lot of trouble. If you saw in the Ferguson fight, he didn't get tired because he was fighting at his own pace. He was hitting Ferguson with some big shots. Ferguson, was hurt at times. So he was able to dictate that pace and control the fight. I think if Khabib is able to dictate the pace and put pressure on him, he's gonna get tired. And like we saw Poirier and Conor, at the end of the day, he's gonna crumble and submit.
By the way, correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe the first time we ever spoke, you told me Khabib is your favorite fighter, right?
Absolutely.
So are we biased here with our analysis, or are we 100%?
You can see it like that, but I think I honestly believe that's what's gonna happen in this fight. A lot of people say, oh, Gaethje has a wrestling background and all that. But Ariel, we both know you have a baseball background. That don't mean you can come in the postseason and strike me out.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So
I actually think I could. I've got a mean 54-mile-per-hour knuckleball that you have never seen before, my man. You have no idea where I come from, all right?
Hey, it's my off season, so we should make it happen, record a video.
I don't know about that. I won't do that. But you know what? That's actually fascinating that you bring that up, because I wanted to ask you that you're a high level athlete. I mean, I don't joke when I say You might be the best player in the world right now playing baseball.
Thank you.
Let's say you're going up against, I don't know, Blake Snell, right? If you're going up against Blake Snell, you have a scouting report, right? You watch video, you watch tape on him, correct? Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
Okay. Justin Gaethje, excuse me, said earlier this week, I watched no film on Khabib. Yeah, sure, I watched his fights as a fan, but from the moment I got this fight till Saturday, I watched no film on this guy. Does your head explode when you hear something like that? Why would you not watch any film on maybe the most dominant fighter in the history of the sport?
I heard that, and honestly, I don't believe it. I think he studied the film. When I saw him training, he was training every position that Khabib puts his opponents on. So he definitely studied, or Trevor Whitman did the studying for him. But they definitely studied, and they definitely know every move that Khabib's gonna do out there. And like you said, I studied pitchers. You know, I studied Blake Snell. I studied Glass now before facing them. But if the pitchers execute their plan and they put the ball where they want it to be, I'm not going to have success. I live off their mistakes. So Justin Gaethje can watch all film that he wants and execute his plan, and he might be successful, but Khabib's got to make mistakes in order for him to be successful. So, you know, it's going to be a tough fight for Gaethje just because of the fact that he's never been on the mat with an elite wrestler in MMA. And Khabib is the best we've ever seen. So, you know, it's going to be a first time for him. You know, we all talking about if he can stop the takedown, but, you know, nobody has been able to stop it.
Now, let me ask you this. As a fan of the sport, but also as a big Khabib fan, if he gets to 29-0, if your prediction comes true later today and he extends his streak to 29-0, and he does, in fact, say, I'm done after 30, right? This has been the talk leading up to this fight. 30-0, I'm going to walk away. Who do you want number 30 to be against?
There is only one name, and that's Conor McGregor. You know, I've heard the GSP conversations. You know, as an MMA fan, I don't want to see that fight because I know GSP is not on his prime. I know he doesn't want to fight. He said in multiple interviews. So I really don't want to see that fight. I think Khabib's gonna maul him, just because he's past his prime. And I don't want to see the Ferguson fight anymore, just because, you know, it's fallen through so many times, and then he lost to Gaethje. You know, the hype is not there as much anymore. I think the Conor McGregor fight, you know how people say Conor had a 2-year layoff and he was not focused and he was on the proper 12 and all that. You know, I think a focused McGregor can give a better fight, but it's still going to be the same outcome. But at the same time, it's going to be a great pay-per-view to buy, man.
I'm happy you say that, because I do believe the rematch would be a lot closer than the first fight. And I don't think Conor gets enough credit for winning a round against Khabib. And I know there's no moral victories, but even in the first round, it was a little closer than people remember. I do think if he, you know, had everything in order, that rematch would be fascinating theater. Now, I also want to ask you about the co-main event, because there's massive stakes attached to it. Robert Whittaker against Jared Cannonier. A lot of people think if Cannonier wins, he would be next for Israel Adesanya. Whittaker gets a little funky there because he just lost to him a year ago. But from an X's and O's standpoint, this particular fight, Whittaker, one of the best middleweights in the world. Cannonier has won 3 straight since dropping down to 185. How do you see it playing out?
This is, you know, Cannonier, one-punch power type of guy. Whittaker puts it all together better than anybody out there. Usually I go with the guy that puts it all together. But this time I got to say that I saw Whittaker getting dropped by Till, and he was not even, you know, clipped clean. I think Cannonier might land one punch and finish this fight. I think he has the confidence. I think he really wants it. He's motivated. And I want to see fresh blood going up to fight Izzy. You know, Izzy just had a great performance against Costa. He looked unbeatable. So I don't want to see Whittaker and Izzy too, because Izzy kind of made it look easy. I want to see new blood going up and facing the champ Adesanya.
So you're saying Jared Cannonier is going to knock out Robert Whittaker today?
You know, I'm not sure as the Khabib Gaethje fight, but I would like to see that just because I need that new fighter fighting for the championship.
Yeah, it makes things a little more complicated if Whittaker wins. What kind of a chance would you give Cannonier against Israel?
0 chance. 0 chance. I mean, when you look at that division, you know, nobody has a chance just because you got a lot of strikers and you got, you know, Hermanson is fighting soon. And, you know, he's a pretty solid grappler. But I think Hamzat, the Wolves, has to, you know, climb the rankings and get to that point where he's ready to fight for the title. And hopefully his wrestling will take over. Because I don't see anybody standing up with Izzy putting up a fight. He makes it look way too easy. He's the best striker in the game right now. You need an elite wrestler to be able to take him down and control him and pin him down.
And by the way, I see all your glowing posts about Khamzat, you and Lance McCullers. You guys have the great podcast, the Walkout Podcast, which I urge everyone to go check out. I see you guys glowing about him. I can't decide who you're a bigger fanboy of right now, Khabib or Khamzat. Who's number one on your list? Because I'm not sure right now. It seems neck and neck.
They're pretty much the same style, but Khabib is about to retire. So we got to start, building up a new fighter. So, Khamzat is our new guy. So when Khabib retires, we jump on the Khamzat bandwagon and we keep riding until he retires.
And there you are getting personal video messages from Khabib. And I think did Khamzat send you one as well?
I mean, he sent me one after we beat Oakland in the playoff.
Carlos, always a pleasure, my man. Really, your insight never ceases to amaze me. Your analysis is incredible. I love how much you love the sport. And I'm being honest, anyone who's watching right now, go check out the Walkout Podcast. You have two incredible athletes in their prime talking about our little sport, MMA, with such passion and love. It's a real beautiful thing to watch, and I love how much you guys are into it. I hope that you continue to do it well into the offseason and whatnot. So enjoy the fights tonight, or this afternoon, I should say, coming up in an hour, the pay-per-view, and enjoy everything going down this afternoon in Abu Dhabi. And thank you, as always, for joining us here on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Chael, let us turn our attention to the co-main event. And this is a very important fight in the middleweight division. It's the return of Bobby Knuckles, the former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker, returning for the second time to Fight Island to fight Jared Cannonier, who we have not seen in 13 months, and who a lot of people think, if he wins this afternoon, should be next for Israel Adesanya. By the way, one of those people is the champ himself, the last style bender, who has said Jared Cannonier really excites me and interests me, and I think he should be next if he beats Robert Whittaker. So do you agree that if either Cannonier wins or Robert Whittaker wins, despite the fact that Whittaker just lost to Izzy, 12 and a half months ago, do you think the winner of this fight, regardless of who it is, should be next for the last style bender?
I don't think it's locked in stone, Aaron. Look, I love that idea, and I love the theme behind it. I certainly think that Whittaker, with all the heavy lifting that he's done in this organization, should at least have a path back to the championship. I don't think he should be dismissed for too long. I love Cannonier, and I love the mere fact that he has Adesanya's attention, but I don't know that one win back. I think we're going to have to see how it looked. And by the way, what are we going to do with Chimaev? I just think there's some moving parts. I think it's a very interesting division, and this is a good problem to have. But no, I am not sold that just getting your hand raised and being named Jared Cannonier gets you a title shot. No.
Okay. Perhaps you have to win, but also win impressively as well. Cannonier had pectoral surgery back in March, in early March. How serious? I mean, I feel like he was on the sidelines for quite some time. How serious of an injury is that? Like, do you think it is possible, considering the fact he looked so good in his first three fights since dropping down to 185, defeating the likes of David Branch and then, of course, Anderson Silva and then Jack Hermanson last September, that this can dramatically change who Jared Cannonier is as a fighter?
I think that it's a very real injury in this way, Errol. There's some injuries, you hurt your foot. Okay, great. I go to the gym every day and I just work upper body. You remember when Sean O'Malley hurt his foot, but he's over by the pool and he's punching mitts while limping on one leg. I only suggest that for you because when you do have that pec surgery, it kind of immobilizes you. You can't really get on a treadmill because you don't want to jar the upper body. So it forces you to be stagnant. It's one of those things that can change a layoff. Not all layoffs are created the same. I know he had to be held up and I know he had to be stopped. Look, he's at full capacity right now, but to answer your question on why that specific injury can linger and take guys a little bit longer to recover from, it's because it kind of shuts you down completely.
I think there is a desire to find some fresh blood for Izzy, and I think a lot of people are almost secretly rooting for Jared because we just saw the Whittaker fight, and in doing so, correct me if you feel otherwise, in doing so, I feel like Robert Whittaker is being disrespected. I feel like people have forgotten just how good this guy is. Solid win over Till, hard-fought battle. I feel like people are not giving him his due. He is, in my opinion, the second best middleweight in the world, and I don't think he gets that kind of respect.
Yeah, so one of the greats ever. If you want to have a top 5 conversation, for sure Whittaker's making that list somewhere. Look, this fight's interesting. I don't know if this is the part where you want to get in the X's and O's, but there's only been one person to ever stand up with Robert Whittaker and not leave face down and embarrassed, and that was Adesanya. So if you're telling me you think Cannonier can beat Whittaker, then you're telling me Cannonier can take Whittaker down, something Yoel Romero had 10 rounds to do and only succeeded twice. I just offer that for you because this match, while we're talking about a number one contendership for Cannonier, there's a reason that Vegas has set the line. Excuse me. There's a reason Whitaker's the favorite. Stylistically, it's a good match for Robert, in all fairness.
All right, so hit me with the X's and O's. How does this one play out?
Okay, look, I think that Cannonier is going to be stuck on his feet. I think Cannonier is a very good fighter. You want to box a brawler, you want to brawl a boxer. Whitaker is very technical, which means you want to go out and you want to brawl with him. You're not going to match him skill for skill on your feet, particularly with the layoff. And if you're trying to factor in a takedown, and can Cannonier do it? By the way, he's got to do it at least twice. If it's a 3-round fight and he 10-9 must system, he's got to get him down at least twice to win it. I don't like the chances of it. Robert Whitaker wins this fight.
Interesting. Does he stop him?
Robert Whitaker's probably going to have to be out there for a while. Look, if I was to base it on the way that he fought Till, where it was a little bit more systematic, Whitaker, of course, in the Till fight was coming off a loss. He had to check where he was emotionally and mentally. He passed that test. I think you're going to see a more aggressive Whitaker, but you're probably going to get some minutes.
And so I'm wondering what you thought of Whitaker against Darren Till, because that was a little bit of a hard fight to score. They both had their moments. I thought Whitaker looked very good on his feet as well, and Till gave him that kind of props. What did you, because you know, it feels like it was so long ago now, but the talk going into that fight was, where's Robert at mentally, right? He said he was burnt out. Does he have what it takes to get back on track? And I think he quieted those doubters. But what did you make of how he looked at the entire game that he put on display against Darren Till back in July?
I thought he performed very well. Look, there's some guys that are tough to look good against. Like many people thought that fight needed a little bit more action, things along these lines. Errol, that's a second thought. That's kind of a new phenomenon and narrative to go out there, win, and look good while doing it. Look, in the world of boxing, the motto is, I'll look good next time. Tonight, I'm just going to win. And I do think that we have to remember that. These athletes have a job to do under the 10-9 must system. And trumping everything is finding a way to get your arm raised at the end of the night. That's what Whitaker did. Now, I will concede to you that maybe there was a little bit of apprehensiveness, maybe because he had gone into a fisticuffs in the previous fight and he ends up getting knocked out by Adesanya, that maybe he was a little more reserved. But then I would submit for you again that that's behind him. The old Whitaker's back. He's going to have a level of confidence, and you don't have to be as tactical. Till is a very different game plan. You got to be real tactical. There's certain ways you have to fight him to win. You don't have to do that with Cannonier, not to mention you don't have a choice. Cannonier is going to bring you a brawl.
So, Chael, I think, going back to an earlier point, I think that if Jared Cannonier wins this fight, it's a no-brainer. Cannonier is a fresh matchup. Why not? He has a win over Whitaker. I think if Whitaker wins, things get a little interesting. I think there's a chance they could do Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight title. I think there's a legit chance that Izzy moves up to 205. In fact, Chael, I'll tell you this little nugget. They talked about booking that fight on December 12th. Izzy versus Jan after the Kamaru Usman-Gilbert Burns fight fell through. And the only reason why they didn't book it is because Jan and his wife are expecting their first child that week. And so obviously things can change now, but there has been some interest in that fight. So if Whitaker wins, they might go back to that well, or they'll wait to see what happens between Darren Till and Jack Hermanson later on this year. If Jack wins, no-brainer, right? That'd be a big win. And then if Till wins, even if he'll be on a one-fight winning streak, I think he's a big enough star where they might give him the title shot. Agree or disagree?
I don't know that I argue with you. Izzy versus Blachowicz is an odd one for me. I think that would be a checkers move, and so I would be curious what the chess play is there. Is that to get a built around Izzy to bring John Jones into the equation? Is it to get a little bit of rub on Blachowicz so that he's more of a household name and then bring John into the division? Look, I think 185 is at a very special spot. The fact that you and I, two excellent minds in this sport, if I may say so myself, can't quite determine a number one contender. Errol, that's a good position to be in. When you have a division that's got all that depth and all that opportunity, and as good as Izzy is, he has not yet cleaned it out. He's not George St. Pierre, who's having to go through it a second and a third time over. He's got a lot of really good options. I think we should keep them all open. I'm not quite ready to close the book on the idea that it's going to be Cannonier with a win. I'm not ready. I don't have a problem if it is, but I think there's still a little bit of a discussion out there.
And also, I just want to make this clear. I'm not campaigning for Izzy to fight Jan. I actually think it might be a little weird. I mean, he said that he wanted to clean out the division while John was the champion at 205. John leaves, and then he moves up. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? All I'm saying is that's what's been discussed behind the scenes, and I wouldn't be surprised if Whitaker wins, because could we agree on this? If Whitaker wins, there's no way they run that one back right away, right?
I tend to think that same thing, and I don't like to say that for Whitaker. Look, Whitaker needs to have motivation and opportunity like everybody else. There's a reason to get up and go and do this, and he fights very hard fights, and there does need to be a path at some point for Whitaker to get back to the crown. But to your point, in the short term, it is not tonight. It is not through Cannonier, sadly.
All right, pay-per-view starts 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Earlier in the show, obviously, we talked about the big title unification bout between Khabib, the Eagle, Nurmagomedov, and Justin, the Highlight Gaethje, one of the best fights of the year on paper so far. There's still 2 months left. And there's a history of unification bouts in the UFC. There's a great history of unification bouts. You know, the interim title is sometimes joked about, disrespected. Sometimes it's a little bit of a weird thing, but it has led to some big-time fights. So, Chael, we have called upon our good friend Michael Eaves to give us a little history lesson of some of the great title unification bouts in UFC history. Take a look at this.
At UFC 254, a division's title will be unified for the 11th time in UFC history, but for the first time on Fight Island. In the lightweight division, defending champion Khabib Nurmagomedov looks to stay undefeated and cement his GOAT status.
Khabib Nurmagomedov mauls people. He's the guy that everybody has been saying for years is the best lightweight on the planet.
Standing in his way, the interim title holder, Justin Gaethje.
That's it! Justin Gaethje, the UFC's interim lightweight champion!
Do you not want that on you? Why'd you just throw that off?
Wait for the real one.
Now, history tells us the advantage goes to Gaethje, with interim champions going 6-4 all time in unification fights. The most recent example, just over a year ago, UFC 243, when interim champ Israel Adesanya finished defending champion Robert Whitaker in impressive fashion.
Whitaker nearly out on his feet. Adesanya trying to close it out. Israel Adesanya is the undisputed king of the middleweights.
However, this is not uncharted territory for Khabib. His last fight, also a title unification fight, and he left no doubt who the real champ was.
Nurmagomedov under the chin, there's the tap! Khabib Nurmagomedov, 28-0!
So on Saturday, at UFC 254, will Khabib continue his dominance and retain the belt? Or will the interim champ, Gaethje, follow in the footsteps of Conor McGregor, Georges St. Pierre, and Randy Couture and defeat the defending champion to unify the lightweight title?
How about Michael Eaves with the history lesson? I love that. And again, there have been some amazing undisputed title fights, unification bouts, if you will. And I have a feeling that we'll be able to add this one to the list in a few hours' time. You see the numbers right over there from these two gentlemen. 18 finishes for Khabib Nurmagomedov, 20 finishes for Justin Gaethje. And how about that winning streak? 28-0 for Khabib. And the longest winning streak, of course, of Gaethje's career, 18 in a row. But really, it's those 2 losses that he suffered after the 18 victories that changed his career forever, made him into a better fighter. And since then, he has, of course, won his last 4 in a row. All right, Chael, now let us welcome in the voice of the UFC, Jason Anik's brother, the one and only, the mustache John Anik this time. And by the way, John, and I do want to tell all the crazy fans on YouTube who are stickler for these things, yes, I know the fights are going on right now. We are taping this on Friday because obviously John can't be in the same place at the exact same time, 2 different spots. But when do you decide, I just want to know, when do you decide when you're going to rock the mustache or go beard, clean? Because you're like a chameleon. Every show, it's a different look. How do you come to that conclusion?
Well, I have a mustache most of the time when I'm at home. My wife cannot stand the mustache. The thing about the mustache is, though, unlike a beard, if you screw it up, if you take a little chunk out that needs to be in there, you got to shave the whole thing. So oftentimes when you don't see me with a mustache, it's because I've screwed it up trying to shave it the day before. So I never really think too much about it. I mean, I do give myself a skin fade every 4 or 5 days. So I think I'm more concerned with what's up top or not up top on fight night. But we're going with the mustache for this big fight. And hopefully the masses can somehow deal with it and not be too distracted by it.
It feels appropriate. And Chael, I'll ask a follow-up. That doesn't count as one of my one that we decided early on that we would each ask a question here. So that was on the house. You're back on Fight Island. You're home away from home for the past few months. And obviously, what a way to end this, right? With Khabib returning to Abu Dhabi and everything he's been through over the past few months, of course, going up against Justin Gaethje. And I know that you get to talk to the fighters. It's such a privilege for you guys working the broadcast because you get these intimate sessions with the fighters just days before the fight. I think a lot of people are wondering where Khabib is at, coming off the untimely passing of his father, Abdulmanap. What kind of insight do you have into where he's at mentally going into this fight?
So we certainly are appreciative of that time with the athletes, but by the time they sit down with us, in the case of a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov, he has done so much media that you want to be careful not to be too repetitive. So I think more about some of these interviews than others, but I think he had grown weary, or at least grown a little bit tired of being asked about his father. So I wanted to think of a creative way to ask about Abdulmanap. So I said, did you ever have any conversations with your father about Justin Gaethje as a possible future opponent? And I thought that was sort of a good point of entry for me. And he was very matter of fact. He said, when we would look at lightweight opposition, it was a pretty simple conversation. We would either talk about guys in the context of being a future opponent for me or a future opponent for Islam Makhachev. And he said they would always talk about Gaethje in a Makhachev context. So they certainly had a healthy respect for him, but they were more expectant that he was going to be on Islam's radar and not Khabib's. But they obviously didn't have any conversations about this fight actually being put together, or Gaethje's win over Ferguson or anything like that. But Khabib, he's just so matter of fact. I mean, you know him well. There's nothing he can do to bring his father back. And I think he's trying to sort of lean into that to keep himself from getting too emotional, because if you've seen any of the content out there, as you well know, there's a lot of tear-jerking father-son content to be ingested right now. And Khabib has watched a lot of it.
And John, smarten me up on the Michael Chandler situation. My understanding is that Michael Chandler is not free to go grab a soda and a nacho even right now. I mean, he is there all the way until these walks take place. Am I right?
I think you are right. I think he is hopeful that at some point, maybe early afternoon tomorrow, word will come down that both athletes have recovered from the weigh-in, they have hydrated, and they are ready to go. But when I spoke to him last, he wasn't exactly sure when that drop dead time was going to happen. He's 180 pounds right now. I just texted with him. He's happy to have a full stomach, but it is a weird circumstance with him. I can tell you guys, we are going to interview him on the broadcast, but he is going to bed tonight, still not 100% sure that he's not competing at UFC 254. It's crazy.
I want to ask you about Justin Gaethje, though, because he's now getting a chance to fight for the second time in this pandemic. And I felt when he fought Tony Ferguson at UFC 249 in that empty arena in Jacksonville, I actually felt he benefited from the fact that there was no one in attendance. Volkanovski told me earlier this week that he felt a little flat because there were no fans. So some guys are reacting differently. But I think because Gaethje sometimes gets a little too excited, the fact that no one was there, the fact that he could hear Trevor Whitman and only Trevor Whitman actually kept them at a 7, which was great for him. Right. How do you feel he will respond this time around? And by the way, do you think he has an advantage because he's been through that and Khabib hasn't?
I think you set that up well. I think if you read into Khabib's comments this week, he doesn't like the lack of a crowd. He likes having fans at the hotel. He likes the noise that comes with a fight week. So I thought on the Khabib side, that was pretty telling for him to outwardly and publicly say, I'm really not liking this vibe and this atmosphere. I think maybe a touch too much was made of just how good Gaethje was in that particular setting. Certainly, I think it would be ignorant of me to counter your point and dismiss it as a possible advantage. Gaethje has proven that he can compete in this setting. For me, Jan Blachowicz is the poster child for being able to compete in this setting. I mean, that guy shined more than any athlete has without a crowd. But I do think it's a factor. And if you tell me that for Dominic Cruz, having not competed since 2016, that was not a disadvantage for him walking out for the first time in 4 years without a crowd to get him going, killed Dom. I'm not trying to take anything away from Henry Cejudo, but there's no doubt to just dismiss this climate as a possible factor is ignorant. So I won't do that, but we'll see if Gaethje can excel again. This is obviously a different challenge in front of him than Tony Ferguson.
All right, John, I'm turning to you for inside information, but there's a bubble going on, and you're in the bubble, so I feel like you would have the information. Look, Adesanya has made it very clear that he believes Jared Cannonier becomes the #1 contender if Jared Cannonier beats Whitaker. However, I haven't heard anybody officially state that. Has that been stated? Is this a #1 contenders match?
Yes, I believe Dana White is looking at it as such, and I watched your whole breakdown on Robert Whitaker, and I would tell you on the Whitaker side, he is dismissive of the narrative that his championship experience is going to be a big factor. He just thinks skill for skill that he's better than this guy everywhere, as humbly as he can say that. He understands from a strength standpoint, he's fighting a former heavyweight. But I have never seen Robert Whitaker. And by the way, I called the Tough Smashers final on the Gold Coast in 2012. I have never seen him more comfortable in his own skin more healthy mentally and emotionally than he is right now. I do think for a lot of these long-reigning champions, even though Whitaker didn't have all these title defenses because of some interim circumstances, when you're a long-reigning champion, there is something liberating about that belt going away. And I think it sort of bared fruit in that performance against Darren Till. I think Whitaker is liberated not being the champion. And while I hate to lean too much into a fighter meeting in terms of being predictive about the fight, Whitaker has never sat across from me and been in a more comfortable place and with a more understanding of his own self than he is right now. He's a mature guy. He was born in 1990, but he's maturing before our eyes.
I love that you dropped that. Okay, so on the flip side, what about Cannonier? Biggest fight of his career. He's won 3 in a row since going down to 185, but hasn't fought in about 13, 14 months, right? September of last year was his last fight. Had the pec surgery, which is a very serious surgery to have. And he was supposed to fight back in March, of course, against Robert Whitaker. For him, the stakes are so high. Everyone is talking about him. Izzy's putting him over. What's he been like this week?
Well, when I saw him, he was very excited, obviously, that Adesanya would put him over because he believes he is the #1 middleweight contender. And, of course, he has a great chance to prove as much. He's a very spiritual guy. He was quarantined at the Holiday Express in Las Vegas. He's outside meditating, backed up against a tree for hours at a time. I mean, I'm running in the parking lot. He's just sitting there in his own element. So another guy who is super thoughtful, and another guy who I just doesn't overthink fight night. He's got a lot of Gaethje qualities that he really enjoys fight night itself more than most. But he understands when you get called out by the champion, the way he was called out. And Adesanya has consistently put over #1 contenders, Costa and now Cannonier. Cannonier believes he is fighting for a title fight. And he also, I mean, he was dismissive of Whitaker's championship experience as well. He just thinks that past history is really not a great indicator of future performance. And I think a lot of us who have followed Cannonier's career dating to the beginning when he was an FAA employee, we're just excited to see what he can do with the showcase because there were a lot of people that doubted whether or not he had a championship ceiling after that Glover Teixeira fight, and he has certainly answered those naysayers and then some.
And John, what is your sense being around Cannonier? Is he feeling pressure because of the nuance that's what's added to this fight, or is he feeling excitement about it? Does he see this as an opportunity? I know you've been around a lot of guys, and I know sometimes they put on the face, but what's your sense?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I think Ariel's wise to bring up the torn pec because if you talk to any MMA handicapper, layoffs are a big deal, and major surgeries like that are a big deal.
Maybe it was just me.
He's in a dead freeze, right, on everyone's screen. Yeah.
And Chael, just have one. Unless you have another one, I just have one more on the back end, and that's it.
Sure, that's great, Errol.
Do you have any more?
No.
Okay. Oh.
Sorry, Wi-Fi cut out on me. Just do a pickup.
Do you want to answer that question from the top?
3, 2. Yeah, it's a good question, Chael. Absolutely. I think there is no doubt that Cannonier is one of these guys who thrives under pressure. And you can imagine him sitting home watching UFC 253 to hear the champion after a dominant performance like that call his name. I think this just elevates the fight. It elevates Cannonier. I think it stands to reason that it could elevate Whitaker as well. But I think it's a sage point by Ariel to sort of inject the torn pectoral muscle into this conversation, because if you talk to any MMA handicapper, layoffs like this following a major surgery are something that give them pause when they go to the window to bet on a guy. Now, if any athlete is well equipped to handle that adversity, and Cannonier is training with great training partners at the MMA lab, I don't expect it to be a major factor, but I don't love backing guys off a year-plus layoff. And the fact that Whitaker competed in this setting on Fight Island less than 3 months ago, I think it stands to reason that could benefit him here on Saturday.
John, I want to ask you one more question before we let you go. Obviously, a big story earlier this year was the return of Walt Harris coming off, the shocking passing of his daughter, Nia Blanchard. And you're a dad. Chael's a dad, I'm a dad, and we all have daughters. And I mean, I think I speak for all of us. can't even wrap our heads around how he was able to walk out there against Alistair Overeem and perform the way he was, answer all the questions, and just have the kind of courage that he did and the strength that he did in there. This time around, I think luckily for him, he's sort of flying under the radar, right? He doesn't have to do as much media. There's less of a spotlight on him and whatnot. Could you tell us, where's he at right now? Several months after that Overeem fight, how is he handling everything? How's he doing?
Well, it's a good question. And I think the biggest factor is that he is now 2 fights removed from that circumstance in his life. He was in a terrible place going into the Alistair Overeem fight. And yet, if maybe any referee other than Dan Miragliotta is on the assignment, he might get a TKO win. And then the whole narrative changes. He's unbeaten in 5 straight. And maybe he doesn't have to reassess some things. He feels like mentally and emotionally, he wasn't ready to fight Alistair Overeem, and he's ready to fight Alexander Volkov. We'll see if that produces the desired result. I didn't call the fight against Overeem, but I think everybody, to a man, to a woman in that room, felt like they were staring across a guy that has started to move out of the mourning process and is really focused on how he can affect change and help people that are dealing with a similar circumstance.
Well, we're not supposed to root for people in this business sitting in these chairs, but how could you not root for Walt Harris and his family? So that's one of the 6 fights happening on the main card that you will be calling beginning at 2 p.m. Eastern exclusively on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. And Chael, I know you like a good promo. Do yourself a favor and go find the promo that John Anik cut when he got his scrum. I mean, I remember John Anik when he was just hosting MMA Live. This man had a scrum earlier this week, Chael, and he cut a promo on the disrespect that he has gotten from the MMA community for just being the hard worker, but not the talented guy. Chael, you got to see this promo. It was tremendous stuff. You would love everything about it.
I'm in. I'll check it out. Thank you for the tip.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. My first media scrum in 9 years, but you want to be known as a guy who prepares, but eventually you get a little bit frustrated when people say, yeah, it works hard. It's like, but hey, man, one show at a time, AH.
That's right. I remember New York, UFC 137, the big reveal at the press conference.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. BJ Penwick Diaz. Great memories, John. A pleasure as always. Good luck on the call.
Thanks, John.
See you guys. Thanks, Chael. See you.
All right. Once again, thank you very much to John, and good luck to him and the team as they call the pay-per-view, which kicks off at 2 p.m. Eastern, Chael. I don't know if I've mentioned that enough on today's program. It kicks off in a matter of moments, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, over on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. It's a rare 6-fight main card, Chael, so we're getting a bit of a treat here on this matinee. 6 fights total. This is the lineup. Magomed Ankalaev against Iwan Kutilaba, which is a fight they've tried to book multiple times. Remember, they had that bizarre fight back in February that lasted 38 seconds and was somewhat controversial. Lauren Murphy against Lilia Shakirova, Jacob Malkoun and Philip both making their official UFC debut on this card, and in the main card spot, Alexander Volkov against Walt Harris, Robert Whitaker against Jared Cannonier, and of course the big one, Khabib Nurmagomedov against Justin Gaethje. Of those 6 main card fights, obviously we talked about the top 2, but the rest, anyone kind of sticks out? Is there a fighter, a storyline, a matchup that sticks out to you?
Yeah, you know what? I like Harris and I like Volkov. Was that fair game? You threw a few at me, but is that what? Because I think that Volkov is often overlooked. I mean, he's one of these heavyweights with incredible range, and he knows how to use it. There's a blueprint to beat him, but standing on your feet and trading with him is not that. I think Harris knows that. Harris is a very smart fighter, Errol. If you ever sit and visit with him, you'd be very impressed with his IQ, not only to break down himself, but he can give you good analysis of other people, which means he's broken down Volkov, which means he understands he needs to make it a little gritty, throw some of those hands, clinch him, get him into the fence. I think that Harris has the skills as long as he brings his mind with him.
As you know, Stefan Struve on this card as well. Volkov and Struve, very tall heavyweights, right? Similar builds. The main difference, in my opinion, between the two, Struve, throughout his career, never really understood or appreciated the range that he possessed, right? The length that he possessed. I never felt like he used his length to his advantage. He could have had an amazing jab throughout his career. I feel like Volkov does a much better job of using his length to his advantage. He understands how tall he is, how long he is. Do you agree or disagree?
I fully agree with you. Look, Volkov's a very smart fighter. There's positions you can get in him that he still leaves a little bit to be desired. I can remember the fight with Derek Lewis when he was keeping Lewis at bay, but once Lewis got on top, Volkov didn't really have an answer for that. Now, my goal here is not to knock him, it's to share with you that if I have that assessment of him, certainly he has it within himself. So there's a way that he needs to fight this fight, the same way as Harris needs to get inside, make it dirty, maybe push him in the fence, get his hands on him, get that body lock, and get him to the ground. Volkov needs to use that range you're talking about. He's very good with some of the front kicks, but he doesn't always use them. Sometimes he likes a guy to get close to try to use the elbows and the knees. Look, elbows and knees are very good if a guy penetrates your first line of defense, which is range. Then you bring those elbows in. Sometimes Volkov gives up that range to go to the elbows and knees. I think he should use that as a secondary offense, not a primary one.
And of course, just moments ago with John Anik, we spoke about Walt Harris and his story. And I'm sure everyone's still thinking about him and rooting for him, wanting the best for Walt Harris in this fight. So that fight going down on the pay-per-view main card. And by the way, Chael, I hope that Miss Brittany has prepared the charcuterie board and that you're not going to make it now, because you don't want to miss Magomed Ankalaev versus Ion Cutelaba. These two guys are like, it's like the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. They are going to combust in there. I don't think this fight lasts very long. So please tell me everything's already laid out and ready to go.
Everything's laid out. I can't pronounce those names. Those names you just said sound like something that I will find on the charcuterie board, but I agree with you. It's going to be a good match.
All right. Back to Harris Volkov, your official pick.
Okay, I like Harris in the fight. I just do. I think he knows how to get inside. I visited with Harris before, and he really impressed me with his mind. I realize this is a physicality contest, but he's a very astute guy. And when you do talk about Volkov, there's ways to beat him. In all fairness, we've seen Volkov top 5 heavyweight at one point in his career, steer in the top 10. I've got no problem with his skills. I just think Harris understands to get inside, make it dirty, use the 10-9, get some minutes out there. Don't go out there looking for the oohs and the ahs of the crowd and trying to stop him. Be methodical. Have this good approach. I think Harris is going to beat him.
All right. And earlier you told us that you think Robert Whittaker is going to beat Jared Cannonier. You're sticking with that one?
I'm sticking with Whittaker. And you know what? I don't think he's going to have that hard of a time doing it. I really think many people have forgot just how good and dominant Bobby Knuckles was and still is in my mind.
I couldn't agree more. All right. This is the big one. Khabib Nurmagomedov looking to extend his perfect record to 29-0. By the way, longest winning streak to start a UFC career. Anderson Silva, 16-0. Funny enough, he's fighting in 7 days. If Khabib wins this afternoon, he will be number 2, 13-0 to start his UFC career, going up against Justin Gaethje, who, like I said, has won his last 4 in a row. Who wins? Who's the pick?
Khabib. I don't want to bury my lead. Let me rip the Band-Aid off. Khabib wins this fight. But, partner, one thing you and I are going to be talking about next week, regardless if that prediction of mine is right, one thing we're going to be talking about is just what a dominant fight this was. Whichever one of these guys wins is going to dominate. I'm talking 5 rounds to none. I'm talking 4-1. Either Gaethje touches him up on his feet and it's rinse and repeat for 25 minutes, or Khabib pushes him in the fence, gets him down, entangles those legs, and begins to bludgeon. These guys are studs, but their skill set is too polar opposite for this to be give and take, push and pull. One guy is going to dominate, and he's going to do it bell to bell. I am predicting Khabib.
All right. Well, my watch says that the time for talking Chael is officially over. We are done. I mean, we have talked about this fight for the past 4 or so months. I think we are done, and they are telling me
something tells me it's going to be another minute before we fade to black and roll the credits. Okay, you're not really known for brevity, but give it your best shot.
Yes. Well, they tell me that the pay-per-view is about to start, so we got to get ready. We got to put our jammies on. We got to get our charcuterie boards. We got to get everyone to know that the pay-per-view is going to start in the afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. It's a 6-fight main card, and it's headlined by Khabib versus Gaethje. Go watch it. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, John. Thank you, Chael. Thank you, team. We love you. Enjoy the fights.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.
This is a global pandemic.
An extraordinary global crisis.
The biggest problem with this is the unknown.
Brought the world to its knees.
This is an unprecedented situation that we're facing right now.
We are obviously in completely uncharted territory.
You have the NBA suspended, Major League Baseball delaying, everything else suspended.
The whole sports world is being affected.
The costs were staggering.
40+ million people lost their jobs. Millions more have filed for unemployment because they're not generating revenue.
No one was immune.
As a human being, I'm scared as hell.
Even the seemingly invincible.
We've seen 200,000 people die from COVID-19.
Face devastating loss.
Nurmagomedov passed away due to complications stemming from COVID-19.
UFC lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov.
He is an unparalleled grappler. There's literally been no one like him in this division.
Hardened by a lifetime in the throes of combat.
He's been wrestling since he was born.
His father has guided him from the very beginning.
Has endured a deeply personal tragedy.
You're effectively walking into a new life after you lose your dad.
Now the MMA icon returns to the sport he learned from his father to build on their shared legacy.
Khabib Nurmagomedov, 28-0. What might be next for Nurmagomedov, whenever that may be?
I'm still hungry. I really want to compete with best fighter in the world. This is my dream.
When tragic circumstances kept Nurmagomedov sidelined, it was Justin Gaethje who stepped into the spotlight.
The card is happening, but Khabib Nurmagomedov is out. He is likely to return, but tonight's winner of this interim title fight is getting that crack against Nurmagomedov.
Oh my goodness. He broke down Tony Ferguson in a way that we never thought was even possible.
Winning the interim lightweight title with his patented chaos.
Holy smoke, Justin Gaethje has some power.
9 bonuses in 7 UFC fights.
Big right from Gaethje, and down goes Vic.
Each win coming by way of knockout.
USA, it's Justin Gaethje.
And an attitude to match.
Carnage is what I'm looking for. Personal health is not.
What you get out of Justin Gaethje is spectacular violence.
I'm trying to inflict major damage, major pain at all times.
These two champions will unify the title at UFC 254.
Khabib is relentless. He is ruthless.
Have you ever seen anything like Justin Gaethje?
And a historic headline to crown the greatest lightweight on earth.
Khabib is the best in the world, and I'm happy to represent the United States of America against Russia's best.
The co-main event presents a pair of elite middleweights.
Cannonier's got some power. Whitaker is just an absolute assassin.
As former champion Robert Whitaker
has done it.
Battles top 5 knockout artist Jared Cannonier.
And that's it. Jared Cannonier gets it done.
But before these warriors touch down on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, we turn back the clock to see their stories unfold one chapter at a time.
The story's in place. Champion versus champion. Gaethje versus Khabib. It's the perfect fight.
This is UFC 254. Countdown.
Welcome to the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's get you ready for UFC 249.
What's up, everybody?
First to the stage, welcome El Kukui, riding the longest win streak in the UFC with 12 straight victories.
He's one of the most creative guys to ever step into the octagon, also one of the toughest.
He hasn't lost in nearly 8 years.
Tony just never stops. His endurance is legendary.
He's the former interim lightweight champion, Tony Ferguson. And his opponent, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world today, undefeated and unheard of 28-0, with his last 2 wins over UFC legends Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor.
Absolutely incredible the way he dominates people.
He also rides a UFC best 12 straight wins into this epic contest.
The standard upon which all lightweights will be judged, Khabib Nurmagomedov.
The UFC lightweight champion of the world, Khabib Nurmagomedov.
This was supposed to happen, this fight, for the first time in 2015, 5th time it's been scheduled.
That fight, it was booked in 2015, 2016, 2017. As yet, it hasn't happened.
How has the preparation, the strategy changed
Nothing. I'm not worried about what he's doing. I already did my homework.
This guy is one of the best in the world. And when I watch my legacy in lightweight division, I think, hey, like I have to fight with Tony Ferguson. If I want to become greatest lightweight ever, I have to beat this guy.
Who has the next question?
South by Southwest, the Music and Arts Festival got canceled today because of the coronavirus outbreak. It's got to be a little bit of a concern, right, for any big event.
So when it comes to safety of the athletes and the fans and everything else, no matter where we go or what we do, we're always concerned with that. And so let's not even talk about that. Let's not even talk about this fight not happening.
I remember when we have first press conference, I hear about some very big organization, 120,000 people come around the world, and they cancel this. It was beginning March, and everybody beginning to talk about this.
Breaking news just coming in.
The World Health Organization declared that the coronavirus crisis is now a pandemic.
Every day, news change. Something closed, some country closed.
Thank you, sir. China. Thank you. South Korea, Italy, shutting down. Well, if that's happening, you know that the United States is going to be next.
We close the gym, but we train only professionals. And one day, police come and they say, you guys have to stop training. And we close the gym too. For the last couple of days, we train outside. End of March, everything going crazy.
NHL regular season suspended. NBA season suspended. MLB spring training is over. Major League Soccer season suspended. A slew of conference basketball tournaments were also canceled.
Is there any kind of estimate of how long we won't be watching sports?
No.
We're postponing the next 3 events, but Tony Ferguson versus Khabib is still on, and that will still happen. No crowd, whatever it takes. Probably not even going to be in the United States, but this fight's going to happen.
I remember I called Dana and I said, where are we gonna fight? It was 1 month before fight. And they say 100% we can't fight in US. We're gonna find location. Say we're working on Abu Dhabi. I say, okay, our team, we're gonna move to Abu Dhabi. And we moved to Abu Dhabi, and then Abu Dhabi closed. And we think, okay, what we can do here? We have to move. And that's why we moved to Russia. Then they say, okay, we're gonna make in USA fight. I say, okay, how I can come right now? Russia was closed, US was closed, everything was closed.
Russia is closing the gates. This fight can't happen. Tony versus Khabib.
According to UFC President Dana White, this card is going forward. However, Khabib Nurmagomedov will not be taking part.
UFC 249 has a new main event. Tony Ferguson will now face Justin Gaethje for the UFC interim lightweight title.
Gaethje versus Ferguson will not fail. It will be unbelievable. It will be one of the most ridiculous, violent fights that you will ever see.
My ball.
I had never taken a short notice fight. And I got the call to fight Tony Ferguson, who's a cardio machine. The only way I lose is to get tired. So it was very concerning to me, but, you know, I live a crazy life. I've been training for war since I was very young, so nothing's really different ever.
Amidst the ever-changing chaos of 2020, Justin Gaethje would earn the opportunity of a lifetime. A UFC title bout with Tony Ferguson, which would conclude an epic journey. One that saw Gaethje raised by Arizona coal miners to become an All-American wrestler. Before Trevor Whitman raised him to become a champion in mixed martial arts.
Cross. Yeah. Switch. And switch.
I don't believe there's one athlete